In this video, we should share some truths about God's creation in Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was waste and void. Genesis chapter 1 verses 1 to 2. When that beginning was in which God created the heavens and the earth is not revealed, but it must have been many millions of years ago. It is incorrect to say that it was 6,000 years ago, because there is a long time gap between Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. It is important to understand that the condition in which the earth is described in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 is not how God created it in the beginning in Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. Note that on the one hand, it says, "The earth was waste and void," Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. Yet on the other hand, Isaiah chapter 45 verse 18 says, "The God that formed the earth and made it, that established it and created it not a waste." So was the earth created a waste or not a waste? Was there an apparent contradiction? There is no contradiction. Not created a waste obviously according to Isaiah chapter 45 verse 18 we just quoted. But what about Genesis chapter 1 verse 2? The word was in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 is the same Hebrew word translated as became in Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. Man became a living soul. And Genesis chapter 19 verse 26, she became a pillar of salt. So what happened is that the earth became waste. The word was is the same Hebrew word for became. The original earth passed through a great upheaval. Isaiah chapter 24 verse 1, 45 to 18 and Job 9 to 4-7 indicate that the earth had undergone a cataclysmic change as the result of divine judgment. Job 9 to 4-7 says, "He is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who hath hardened himself against him, and prospered? Him that removeth the mountains, and they know it not, when he overturneth them in his anger, that shaketh the earth out of its place. And the pillars thereof tremble, that commandeth the sun, and it riseth not, and sealeth up the stars." And Isaiah chapter 24 verse 1 says, "Behold, Jehovah maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof." A judgment swept over it, which in all probability must have occurred because of the fall of that mighty creature, Lucifer, who fell because of pride and became the devil. The original earth, no doubt, was his habitation, and he had authority over it, which he still claims as the prince of this world. Luke chapter 4 verses 5 to 6 shows us this. As a result of the divine judgment, the earth had become waste and void. What that original earth was we do not know, but man was not then on the earth. Between Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, there is that unknown gap of many millions of years. In sum, Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 talks about the original creation of God, but Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 talks about the ruined creation, and the brooding spirit, with a long time gap between the two verses. "And God said, Let there be light, and there was light." Genesis chapter 1 verse 3. Neither Genesis chapter 1 verse 3 here nor in Genesis chapter 1 verses 14 to 18 implies an original creative act. A different word is used. The sense is made or set to appear, made visible. This does not imply a creative act but rather is declarative of function merely. That is similar to setting or shaping some entity already created to function. This requires the existence of material which is shaped into something. Therefore, on the first day, God did not create light, but rather he commanded the light to shine out of darkness, 2 Corinthians 4-6. In fact, the word created is only used in 3 instances in Genesis chapter 1. The heavens and the earth in verse 1, animal life in verse 21, human life in verse 27. The creation of man is the crowning act of the Creator and precedes his rest. Let us make man in our image, Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, is the counsel of the Godhead. Then, God created man in his own image, Genesis chapter 1 verse 27. In Genesis chapter 2 we see that he formed him out of the dust of the earth and breathed into his nostrils, and man became a living soul. Note that the word created is used here in 127. So to recap, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, and after a long time gap between verse 1 and verse 2, the earth became waste, Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, due to God's divine judgment on the satanic rebellion, and the earth, not the heavens, was restored, not created, but restored, by God in 6 days. With animal life and human life created, as described in Genesis chapter 1. The highlights of the 7 days mentioned are listed below. First day, light. Second day, dividing of waters. Third day, the earth out of the waters and vegetable life. Fourth day, solar system and lights. Fifth day, life in the waters. Sixth day, life on the earth and man created. Seventh day, God rests. For the application of the creation account to Christian experience, please see another earlier message. In this video, we have shared some truths about God's creation in Genesis chapter 1. If you like this video, please like, share or subscribe. Thank you.